I stood in the center of my living room, the phone pressed against my ear, listening to the silence on the other end. It wasn't the silence of a bad connection or a dropped call. It was the stunned, suffocating silence of someone who had just realized their safety net had been set on fire. For the first time in 21 years, my daughter, Stacy, wasn't screaming, demanding, or mocking me. She was deceiving. The rain hammered against the roof of my small, paid-off bungalow in Oak Harbor, a rhythm that usually comforted me. But tonight, it sounded like a countdown. On the coffee table in front of me lay a crumpled bank statement and a shiny brochure for a luxury spring break trip to Cabo, a trip I was never supposed to know about. "Dad?" Her voice finally cracked through the speaker, small and trembling. The card didn't work. The registrar, they said the tuition check bounced. They said, "I'm being administratively withdrawn." I took a deep breath, staring at the calloused, cracked skin on my hands. Hands that had scrubbed, lifted, and hauled garbage for 3 decades to put that ungrateful girl in a classroom I could never afford for myself. "I know, Stacy," I said, my voice steady but heavy with a grief she couldn't possibly understand yet. "I canceled it." Before I explain what happened next, or how a father's love can curl into a lesson hard enough to break bone, let me take you back to the moment I realized I was raising a stranger. Please, before we continue, take a second to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. It helps the channel more than you know. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from today? Don't forget to subscribe to follow this journey. To understand why this hurts so much, you have to understand the job. I am a sanitation worker, a garbage man. I've been waking up at 3 a.m. every morning for 30 years. The smell of other people's waste is something you never quite get out of your pores. It settles into the creases of your skin, hangs in the fabric of your clothes, even after 2 washes. But it's honest work. It offers a pension, good benefits, and enough overtime pay to build a life. When my wife passed away when Stacy was just 5, that job became my lifeline. I threw myself into the roots, picking up extra shifts, hauling heavy debris during storm seasons, doing whatever it took to make sure Stacy never felt the lack of a mother or the pinch of poverty. I remember holding her tiny hand at the funeral, promising her that she would have everything I didn't. I wanted her to have soft hands. I wanted her to work in a climate-controlled office where the only thing she had to lift was a pen. I looked at her innocence and vowed to protect it with my sweat. I didn't realize then that by shielding her from the struggle, I was shielding her to the value of the dollar. Growing up, Stacy was sweet. She'd wait for me on the porch with a glass of lemonade when the truck rumbled down our street. She didn't care that I smelled like diesel and refused. She just saw her dad. But time has a way of eroding gratitude if you aren't careful. The shift started in high school, subtle at first. She stopped waiting on the porch. She asked me to drop her off a block away from the school entrance so her friends wouldn't see the rust on my pickup truck. I swallowed my pride. I told myself it was just a phase. Teenagers are embarrassed by their parents. It's practically a biological mandate. I focused on the goal, university. I had been saving since she was in diapers. Every time I found a perfectly good table or a usable bike thrown out on my route, I'd clean it up, sell it, and put that cash into her college fund. When she got into a prestigious private university 3 hours away, I cried tears of joy. I thought we had made it. I didn't know I was sending her to a place that would teach her to despise the very hands that signed her checks. The first semester was fine. She called weekly. But by the second year, the calls became transactions. It was never, "How are you, Dad?" or "How's the back pain?" It was always, "Dad, I need books," or "Dad, the meal plan isn't enough." I feel the money. I always feel the money. I picked up Sunday shifts. I worked holidays. I skipped fixing the leak in my own roof to make sure she had the newest laptop because she claimed hers was too slow for coding, even though she was a sociology major. She started dating a boy named Preston in her junior year. Preston came from money. Old money. The kind of money that doesn't look at price tags. When Stacy brought him home for Thanksgiving, he looked at my small house like he was visiting a zoo exhibit. He made polite, condescending comments about the quaint neighborhood. Stacy spent the whole weekend apologizing for me. She laughed too hard at his jokes and interrupted me whenever I tried to tell a story. I sat at my own dining table, feeling small in the presence of my own child. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself I should be happy she was moving up in the world. The demands escalated. $500 for a networking sorority fee. $300 for specialized software. I transferred it all. But the emotional distance grew wider. She stopped coming home for weekends. She forgot my birthday. One evening, I was sitting alone, nursing a sore shoulder from lifting heavy bins all day, scrolling through social media. I saw photos of Stacy and Preston at high-end restaurants, wearing designer clothes I certainly hadn't bought. In the captions, she thanked the universe for her lifestyle. Not her father. The universe. It's a terrible feeling, realizing you are being used by the person you love most in the world. It hollows you out. You start to question every sacrifice you ever made. If you have ever felt invisible to the people you sacrificed your life for. If you've ever felt like an ATM machine with a heartbeat, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us find each other in this mess. The breaking point didn't happen all at once. It was a slow build leading to a singular explosion. It was parents' weekend at the university. Stacy had told me not to eat. She said she was swamped with exams and wouldn't have time to see me. I was disappointed, but I respected her studies. However, as fate would have it, my route supervisor asked if anyone could drive a specialized hauler down to that very city to pick up industrial waste from a construction site near the campus. It paid double time. I took it. I figured I could do the job, then maybe surprise Stacy with a quick lunch. Just drop off a care package of her favorite homemade cookies and leave. I arrived in the city around noon. I was in my uniform, neon yellow vest, thick work boots, heavy gloves tucked into my belt. I was dirty. It was a hot day, and I had been working since dawn. I parked the rig and walked toward her dorm, holding the tin of cookies. The campus was beautiful. Manicured green lawns and brick buildings that smelled of history and money. I felt out of place, a smudge of grime on a pristine painting. Students walked by in blazers and expensive athletic wear. I texted Stacy, "I'm in town for work, dropping off cookies, meet me outside the bedroom?" No answer. I waited for 20 minutes. Then I saw them. Stacy, Preston, and a group of 3 other students were walking across the quad, laughing. They were dressed up, suits and cocktail dresses. It must have been some kind of mixer or daytime event. My heart leaped. I waved. "Stacy!" I called out, stepping forward. The group stopped. Stacy turned. Her smile vanished instantly, replaced by a look of sheer horror. It wasn't surprise. It was mortification. Preston leaned in and whispered something to her, smirking. I walked up to them, wiping my hands on my pants. "Surprise, honey. I had a haul nearby." Stacy looked around nervously, deceiving that anyone else might see us. Dad? What are you doing here? You look at you. I'm working, Stace. Honest money, I said, trying to keep my smile. I held out the tin. Made your favorites? Preston laughed, a dry, sharp sound. So, this is the financial investor father you told us about, Stace? He invests in what? Landfills? The group giggled. My blood ran cold. Finance investor? Is that what she had told them? Stacy turned bright red. Instead of defending me, instead of owning her truth, she doubled down. She let out a forced, high-pitched laugh. Oh God, no, she said, looking at her friends, avoiding my eyes. He's just the guy who cleans up. I barely know him. He's always trying to get money from me. The world stopped spinning for a second. The air left my lungs. She had not only denied me, she had inverted our reality. She painted me as the leech. Stacy, I said, my voice low. What did you say? She stepped closer, hissing under her breath so her friends wouldn't hear the desperation. Leave, now. You smell like trash. You are ruining everything. Just go, Dad. Get back in your garbage truck and drive away. Then she turned back to her friends, flipping her hair. Sorry, guys, she said loudly. The help can be so clingy sometimes. I stood there for a moment, the tin of cookies feeling like a lead weight in my hand. I looked at the young woman I had carried on my shoulders, the woman whose tuition cost more than my house. I saw no love in her eyes, only contempt. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I gently placed the tin of cookies on a nearby bench. Enjoy the cookies, Stacy, I said. They're free. I turned and walked away. I could hear Preston making a joke about sanitation engineers as I left. I walked all the way back to my rig, climbed into the cab, and sat there. I didn't start the engine immediately. I just sat. For years I had told myself that my sacrifice was worth it because it was building her future. But sitting in that cab, I realized I wasn't building a future. I was financing a monster. I had taught her that money appears by magic, that labor is shameful, and that her father was a utility, not a human being. I started the truck. The drive back to Oak Harbor was 3 hours. By the time I hit the city limits, my tears had dried and my resolve had hardened into concrete. When I got home, I didn't go to sleep. I went to my desk. I pulled out the files. The tuition schedule. The apartment lease I had co-signed, but was paying for entirely. The credit card statements. I looked at the numbers. Thousands of dollars a month. Money I earned by lifting other people's filth. Money she used to buy outfits to impress people who mocked me. I picked up the phone and called the credit card company first. Report lost or stolen? The automated voice asked. No, I said to the machine. Cancel. Close the account. Next, I logged into the university parent portal. I had access because I was the sole payer. I went to the payment plan settings. There was a scheduled payment of $12,000 due the next morning for the upcoming semester. I clicked Cancel Payment. Then I removed my bank details entirely. The next morning, I went to work as usual. I felt lighter. Strange, isn't it? To cut off your own child should feel like an amputation. But it felt like removing a tumor. Around 10 a.m., my phone started buzzing. Stacy. I let it go to voicemail. 10:15 a.m. Stacy. 10:30 a.m. Stacy. 10:45 a.m. Text, Dad? Card declined at Starbucks. What is going on? I put the phone on silent and kept working. I lifted a bin full of rotting drywall and coughed it into the hopper. I watched the crusher come down, pulverizing the debris. It was deeply satisfying. By noon, the texts were frantic. Dad, seriously, I need gas. Dad, are you hurt? Pick up. Dad, this isn't funny. I didn't answer her for 3 days. I needed her to sit in the panic. I needed her to feel what it was like when the magic money faucet turned off. On the third night, I finally answered. It was the call I described at the beginning. The tuition check had bounced. She was facing administrative withdrawal if she didn't pay within 48 hours. Dad, fix this, she screamed. Do you know how embarrassing this is? The registrar called me into the office. I imagine that was uncomfortable, I said calmly, taking a sip of my coffee. Uncomfortable? It's a disaster. Transfer the money now. No, I said. The silence on the other end was deafening. What? No. I'm not transferring anything. The financial investor has decided to dive from this particular venture. Is this because of the other day? She stammered. Dad, come on. I was under pressure. You don't understand the social dynamics here. Preston's family is important. I understand perfectly, Stacy, I said. You were ashamed of me. You called me the help. You told your friends I was a beggar. It was a joke, she cried. It wasn't funny to me, I replied. You want to live a life of luxury? You want to look down on blue-collar work? Fine, you are free to do so. But you will not do it on my blue-collar dime. You can't do this. I'll get kicked out. Then I guess you better get a job, I said. I hear the cafeteria is hiring dishwashers. It's honest work. Maybe you'll learn something. I hung up. The next 2 weeks were a barrage of manipulation. She sent me long texts apologizing, then followed them with angry texts calling me abusive. Preston even called me once, trying to use his alpha male voice to intimidate me. Look, Mr. Darlington, he said. You have an obligation to her. I have an obligation to myself, I told him. And you have a lot of nerve calling the man whose money paid for the dinners you ate. If you're so rich, Preston, you pay her tuition. Preston hung up. Shockingly, he didn't offer to pay a dime. They broke up 3 days later. Apparently, Stacy wasn't quite as attractive to him without my credit card backing her up. Stacy didn't get the money. She was withdrawn from her classes for the semester. She had to move out of the luxury apartment because I stopped paying that rent too. I contacted the landlord, explained the situation, and paid the lease break fee myself just to be done with it. It was expensive, but it was the price of freedom. She had to move back to Oak Harbor. She showed up on my doorstep with 4 suitcases, looking exhausted and furious. She expected to march back into her old room and groove until I caved. I met her at the door. You can stay here for 2 weeks, I told her, but there are rules. You cook, you clean, and you find a job. I am a student, she yelled. Not right now you aren't, I said. Right now you're unemployed, and in this house, we respect labor. Those 2 weeks were hell. She refused to leave her room. She ate my food and left the dishes in the sink. She treated me like a jailer. One night, I sat her down. Stacy, you think I'm doing this to hurt you? I'm not. I'm doing this because I failed you. I made life too easy and it made you weak. And it made you cruel. She rolled her eyes. Are you done with the speech? Almost, I said. Your 2 weeks are up tomorrow. You need to find somewhere else to go. She looked at me, stunned. You're kicking me out? I'm your daughter. And I love you, I said. but I will not live with someone who disrespects me in my own home. You figured out how to lie to your rich friends. Surely you can figure out how to rent a room. She left the next morning, screaming that she hated me, that she would never speak to me again. She moved in with a friend from high school, sleeping on a couch. For months, we didn't speak. It was the worst thing I've ever done. I lay awake at night, worrying. Was she eating? Was she safe? But I knew that if I saved her again, I would lose her forever. She needed to learn that gravity exists. I used the money I was saving on tuition to finally fix my roof. I bought a new recliner. I took a fishing trip with my buddy Gus from the depot. I started living my life. I realized that for 20 years, I had been holding my breath. 6 months later, I was sweeping the porch when a small Honda Civic pulled up. It was a beat-up car, rusting at the wheel wells. Stacy got out. She looked different. She was wearing a waitress uniform, black pants, black shirt, apron. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun. She looked tired. She looked real. She walked up the driveway slowly. She didn't have that arrogant strut anymore. She stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Hi, Dad," she said quietly. "Hi, Stacy." I leaned on my broom. "I'm working at the diner on 4th, she said. "Double shifts. It sucks. My feet hurt all the time. Customers are rude. They treat me like I'm stupid." I nodded. People can be unkind to service workers. She looked down at her shoes. "I know. I'm sorry, Dad." It wasn't a magic fix. She didn't move back in, and I didn't offer to pay her tuition again immediately. She is currently taking classes at the community college, paying for them 1 credit at a time. She's tired, she's broke, and she drives a rust bucket. But when she comes over for dinner now, she sets the table. She asks about my back. She tells me about the rude customers she dealt with, and we laugh about it. Because now, she understands. She understands that the money in my pocket represents hours of my life, and she treats it, and me, with respect. I lost the fantasy of the perfect, pampered daughter. But I got my real child back, and that was worth every penny I stopped spending. If you believe respect is earned, not given, and that parents are not just bank accounts, please subscribe to the channel. It tells YouTube that these stories matter. And let me know in the comments, did I go too far, or was it exactly what she needed? Until next time.